given everything else going on, is the Steam machine unreasonably expensive, or are the other consoles just absorbing more of the loss and not keeping up with everything else and kind of just like hoping to outlast, right?
Butterscotch shenanigans.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 579 of Coffee with Butterscotch, the weekly podcast for indie game developers. I'm Seth and I'm the games programmer.
I'm Adam, the latest programmer. I'm Sam and I'm the artist.
And we are Butterscotch Shenanigans. Today is June 26, 2026. 2020 quick, really. That's the name of the year.
Yeah, you said it too quick. Too slow? I don't know,
but we got some stuff to talk about today, mostly about the Steam machine. Also, I want to thank everybody for the spirited debate and the comments in the last episode. Keep them coming. It's always interesting to hear different perspectives on things. I'm sure we'll get some more perspectives on what we'll talk about today, which is the Steam machine. So a bunch of information came out about it this week. Reviewers are getting it. People are buying it. Or trying to in some cases.
Yeah. Is it sold out already, or whatever? You don't know what the status is.
All I saw was that it became available in Japan and then sold out in 3 hours. I don't know what the distribution plan is, or when it will be available.
Yeah, whenever someone says,
places.
"Oh, we sold out in 3 hours," it's like, well, how many units
did you
how many units?
Like, what are we?
Yeah.
No
context.
It's the same thing.
It sounds good.
Yeah,
anybody who's been looking at it, because this was what, like a year ago or something. Steam announced this new hardware lineup, right? They say we got the Steam machine coming, we got the new Steam controller coming, and we got the frame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, their new VR headset.
Mm-hmm.
Very exciting announcement. I was very excited about all three of those pieces of hardware. That was a year ago, so now we're a year in, and it's time. It's time to start seeing some of these things. And the controller started. It came out. It was like out for a week, and I was like, "Ooh, I should sign up to get on the waiting list." And so I'm on the waiting list till sometime in 2027, indeterminate for the Steam controller. And now the Steam machine got announced. So what's the story with this guy?
So I will say, I mean, this was kind of unfortunate timing because they announced it last year. This was right around the time the Switch 2 was coming out. And then suddenly old tariff boy shows up and he's like, let's make everything more expensive. Just fuck everything. Just make it more expensive. Boy. So we did that and it worked. Oh boy, did it work. Shit got expensive real quick.
It really did.
So the Switch 2 was kind of the, canary in the coal mine on the tariff side of things, because they were like, well, we're going to delay a little bit, and also we got to jack up the price because of this stuff. And that was before the component cost crisis. So the Steam machine was originally planned to be something like $750.
I don't think Steve has ever said
it's on the
specifically, have they, how much it was going to be? But I think that was like the that was what people thought, and then the thing they said publicly
sort of like
now.
That's basically if you kind of math it out. With the component cost changes, that's about the difference, right? And so now it's launching at $1,049 for the base model. So that's 512 gigabytes. Does not come with a controller. It's just a box. It's just a GameCube. That's it. Again, like Adam said, if you want the controller, you got to wait another year or two because the Steam controllers. The Steam controllers, and this is interesting because the Steam machine is getting pan in reviews because it has less storage, and it's just has similar or less power than something like a PlayStation 5 or whatever. Costs quite a bit more. Doesn't come with a controller, and I suspect that much like the Steam controller, which also had similar response, people were like, $99 for a controller. It's not even that great of a controller. What's the big deal? That shit sold out for years. You can't.
Because when you say,
right? Yeah.
When you say people were saying this, the question is which people, right? Because there are some people saying all those things for sure. I've also seen lots of people very excited about the hardware and understanding.
Oh yeah, I mean, when
cost,
I say people,
right?
I mean any well-known tech reviewers.
Yeah,
they're all saying the same thing, which is it's a good controller. I don't know. I wouldn't pay $99 for it, and it's probably not anything special, right? I will say though that if you ever use a Steam Deck, which is basically a Steam controller, with the screen in the middle, the trackpads and then Steam's sort of controller configuration layer that you can use to play all kinds of games that normally you couldn't play with a controller is just top notch.
Extremely
like,
cool.
it's just so good. So even the little trackpads alone are super good.
And it has an Easter egg of the Wilhelm scream when you throw it, which
yeah.
alone is $20 right there. I feel like, it's a good deal.
Yeah, I think somebody in our Discord was like, "What happens if you throw the Steam machine?"
If they got that thing streaming too, it might be worth the money. I mean,
or if you throw a Steam controller at a Steam machine, maybe something special happens.
But of course, the fact of the pricing stuff is like, given the price of components right now, and the fact that the Steam machine, unlike the consoles, because consoles are sold not necessarily at a loss, but potentially at a loss, and certainly not with the intention of making a lot of revenue on the device itself, right? Because they make it up in game sales, and they need people to have the consoles to go buy the games, right? And it's basically free for them to sell games and take a 30% cut in terms of like relative to a hardware cost of making something hardware. So what they really want to do is sell games that you can, that you then have to buy these machines for. So they'll sell them at a loss. Steam doesn't need to do that. And they don't want to do that.
Well, this is what
it's a
they
non-subsidized cost with all the inflationary stuff going on.
Yeah. And this is something that Valve has come out and said, where they're basically saying like, we don't think that the Steam machine is going to move units of games. Like, you're not going to be like, I wasn't going to buy this game, but now that I have a Steam machine, I will buy this game. It's a supplemental piece of hardware for your Steam library for your PC gaming, but because it's not the gateway into their ecosystem, then they don't want to subsidize the cost, because
you don't need one to play
loss,
Steam
essentially.
Games.
Yeah. So with all this sort of conversation around the price of the Steam machine, the question I had was, okay, it's $1,049, which is a lot of money. Given everything else going on in the gaming ecosystem, given the sort of hardware component insanity that's going on, is it actually unreasonably expensive for what it is? Or is
you mean
everything
given
else...
that the world is unreasonable, is it unreasonable on top of unreasonable, or is it reasonable on top of unreasonable?
Right. Yeah. So like given everything else going on, is the Steam machine unreasonably expensive, or are the other consoles just absorbing more of the loss and not keeping up with everything else, and kind of just like hoping to outlast, right?
Yeah, and of course their consoles have been jacking up the prices too. But so I guess the question there is, have they jacked them up enough to where?
So, and I will say a little bit of background, which is that Seth is a chartered financial analyst, technically, right?
Yes.
So
I know how to do some numbers.
He knows how to do some spreadsheets,
Importantly, I don't have all the information on this. I have what information is publicly available.
Yeah.
Right. And so I don't know all of the costs that go into all of these different consoles, but I can look at sort of like inflation rates and like prices of consoles over time and stuff, and try to get a sense of like what has been going on with the prices of consoles over the years and all of this. So I basically I kind of went through and looked at all these different numbers, and spoiler alert, yes, the Steam machine is probably unreasonably expensive.
Well, let's go through. Let's figure out how much. Yeah, take us on a journey here. I want to know like where are we at in terms of costs for.
All right.
For the previous.
So an important thing to think about with all this is that the value of $1 is not the same every year, right? Like 5 years ago, you could get a burrito for $7 at Chipotle. Now it's $75, right? No, not really.
Approximately,
it's like 15 or 16.
Feels like it.
And also like price changes. Yeah, and like price changes because of inflation don't hit everything the same. And tech is weird because tech, like in a lot of cases, the prices of tech goes down over time, and we're actually kind of in an atypical period where the same piece of hardware in tech is now 4 times the cost of what it was 3 years ago when it comes to RAM or storage. So for reference, I just looked at like the price of SSD. So if you get, there's like a PC parts picker site, and they have price charts and stuff. So 1 year ago, 250 gigabyte SSD average price was $30. Now it's 70. So that's 133% price increase. That's 250 gigs, right? So these consoles
year?
In 1 year, yeah.
Jesus.
So these consoles have 1 terabyte typically, or close to it. So like the Xbox Series X Digital Edition has 1 terabyte. The PS5 Digital Edition has 825 gigabytes, which is a strange number, but that's what it has. And then the Steam machine has 512. So again, it's back to that. Like, is it unreasonably expensive? Like, it just has less storage than the rest. So it would be less affected by storage price increases. But it still just costs way more, right? So, and then the price of RAM has gone even harder than that. So in 2023, the price of GDDR6 RAM, this is like a kind of a unique type of RAM that the consoles use. It's kind of like a wholesale thing that like tech companies buy in larger quantities. Like you wouldn't get this for your PC
rig
to plug it in. But in 2023, 1 gigabyte of GDDR6 RAM was $2.28. Now it's $8.87. So 289% price increase. So basically 4x, just give or take, right? And DDR5 RAM has followed almost the exact same trajectory. It's roughly 4 times the price that it was just like a year ago. So with all that said,
versus a year ago, it was also more expensive a year ago than it was the previous year, right? Compared to like how
it's pretty flat.
Was it pretty flat?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it went up a little bit, but this has just been an astronomical surge, just over the past year. So like, yeah, like back in early 2025, we're like, oh god, like these tariffs are really going to hit everything. And turns out the capex of all these hyperscaler AI companies slurping up all of the RAM and storage in the universe, and all the chips, frankly, GPUs, everything else. That has actually hit everything much harder, because also like chips are in everything. RAM is in everything. Like it's in your car.
Yep.
It's hard to find like a refrigerator that doesn't have a fucking computer in it. You know what I mean? So that's oftentimes a much smaller part of the whole pie than something like a console, which is a computer, right?
Yeah, well, it's also the reason why the computers are in everything, right? It's because they had gotten so cheap that
they've been cheap.
They just shove them into everything. But yeah, and they made up, as you're saying, an insignificant fraction of overall costs for things that you were buying, not because they were a computer. A console is a computer; it does its purpose, right? So computing stuff makes up most of its cost. But the costs are going up high enough, fast enough that even places where they shouldn't really matter, right?
And so one comment here is like, I didn't look at the prices of GPU or CPU components. I literally just looked at RAM and storage just for this. And so I could basically, and one thing we know is that, so for example, like the Xbox Series X digital has gone up in price since it released. It recently had a price bump. Same with the PS5 digital edition. So I wanted to look at those and kind of compare those to the Steam machine, because probably closer in performance, and also like they're digital, so they don't have a disk drive, which neither does the Steam machine.
Closer to how the
there's
box
another
works, basically.
There's another part that's important to note here, I think, because you're talking about kind of like the average prices of these things over the past year, right? But when it comes to specialty things, right? So if you're Apple or Steam or somebody who are operating at a big enough scale where you've got a bespoke piece of hardware, you're basically hiring some manufacturer to construct that thing for you, often with some like specific details or whatever. And those companies that make that stuff have diverted their manufacturing capacity to the AI data center domains, right? Which means
because that's also specialized.
Because it's also specialized. So even though like the average price of certain kinds of components, it's just like inflation and how it hits things differently, right? Just because the average price of RAM has gone up 4x or whatever, right? Doesn't mean that the RAM that goes into a Steam machine has also, because it depends what that RAM is, right? And it depends, is it something off the shelf that normally you can just get, right? Have companies decided to stop making it because they want to divert their manufacturing capacity to stuff that makes them more money? And if so, then Steam has to pay even more than the 4x increase to convince them to make it, and so on, right? And so
it's not going to be 1-to-1, but it is going to be it's gonna track it.
Well, I
Right,
think what you can
so-
count on is that for more like bespoke kinds of things, especially consumer products, the price increase is probably significantly
probably
higher than the
more.
average, right? Because all capacity is going towards high scale hyperscaler needs, and so to get them to make your stuff, you have to pay even more, right?
Yeah. All right. So before we kind of get into like the price changes of the Xbox Series X, the PS5, and those things that people are kind of getting fired up about, I want to kind of look back and see, like, if we go back in time to 2013, which was the start of the Xbox One, PlayStation 4,
Current gen
era.
consoles launch, basically.
The previous generation
That's right,
consoles.
yeah.
The current gen is 2020, so there's about a 7-year gap there. And like, what did things cost back then? And then if you adjust it for inflation, how does that compare to today? So average inflation, according to CPI, is 2.79% from 2013 to now. And I know you're thinking like,
That sounds
2.79%. That's hard. That sounds low. Well, when you compound that over 13 years, it's actually quite a lot. So
I'm also impressed that it's that
with the pandemic.
low. Yeah, given the last 5 years and how high inflation has been, I'm just surprised that the average is that low.
yes.
But-
Yes. And again, CPI is an extremely flawed metric.
Yeah.
It just is one that we have readily available, right? And so I think it's fair to argue that inflation is actually higher
A lot.
than that. But if you're going to make that argument, then that also has some side effects in terms of how you should view the prices of some of these things. Because in some cases, that means you would be arguing that actually you get a pretty good deal because they haven't gone up as fast as inflation in many cases, right?
So we're looking at numbers.
So the Xbox One debuted in 2013 at $499, and in many of these cases, there's like lots of different models, and so the important thing is just kind of look at like, what does that compare to today in inflation wise? So $499 in 2013 is $714 today. Okay. So for reference, the Xbox Series X digital was recently increased in price to $749.
Okay, so basically
it's pretty close
pace.
to what like the original Xbox One was.
And that's
but the
minus
Xbox Series
consideration
X-
of any of the component increase prices we've seen in the last year, basically. Right?
Yeah.
Because obviously,
But importantly,
CPI does not take into account component.
Yeah, because CPI is probably
Prices.
a significant underestimate of real inflation, right?
the CPI assumes that you don't need energy or computers or a house.
Yes.
So it like again, CPI is pretty fucking dumb.
Yeah, but
We're
the
just
conclusion there,
gonna-
though, is that means that the price is actually staying below inflationary pressures, right?
For the Xbox.
Give or take. Yeah.
Give or
Well,
take.
yeah. If you include the component changes, it's way below.
It's way below,
actually.
Yes.
So yeah, because the Xbox Series X launched in 2020 at $449, which is $530 today. So actually, like compared to the previous generation Xbox, it was like
All the Xboxes
$150 cheaper in real dollars.
Mm.
But now it has caught back up to the original Xbox Xbox One price. So we can also look at the PlayStation kind of generation. So PS4 launched at $400 in 2013, which is $571 today. So, and that was a big reason why people were like, yep, PlayStation basically won that generation of consoles.
Because they were priced lower out of the gate.
They were priced lower. And also it was at a time where like there was a big pushback against moving games from physical to digital in the console space. And Xbox really wanted to push for that. And PlayStation, I remember they had an ad at the time where they were like, here's how you share a game on PlayStation. And then they just handed it the physical disc across. And yeah, so like Xbox kind of shot themselves in the foot in all kinds of ways. It was too expensive and they were cramming stuff in there. They're doing the Microsoft thing. Cram a bunch of stuff in there that people don't want, but you think it's going to make you more money, right? So then in 2020, the PS5 digital edition launched for $399, which is $471 today.
Okay.
CPI wise. And the PS5 digital edition recently went up to $599. So went up by $100 in like just absolute dollars, not real dollars.
So it's actually been cheaper across the board than the Xboxes.
PS5 has just been cheaper, than Xbox. It's also worth noting though that like with many of these consoles, they have extra fees that you have to pay just to use the thing.
Yes.
Like, hey, you want to be online? That's $10 a month or whatever, right? I don't know the exact prices of each of those things for each of the different consoles, but they all like to kind of nickel and dime you a bunch after the fact, which something like the Steam Machine doesn't actually have. And arguably, Steam Machine has way cheaper games because of Steam sales and all that stuff. And if you've been using Steam, then you've got your Steam library already. And so you just boot the thing up and now you've got, if you're buying an Xbox fresh and you haven't been an Xbox gamer, get ready to shell out thousands of dollars to build up that game library, or PlayStation. On Steam, if you've been a Steam gamer, you can just take it with you, right? So it's not totally apples to apples, but we're just talking about the hardware at this point. So so then compared to the Xbox Series X or the PS5 digital, so Steam Machine is $1,049, Xbox Series X digital is $749, and PS5 digital is $599. So we're talking a $300 or $400 price difference between the Steam Machine and these other consoles. They like the other consoles do have like higher tiers that are more powerful, all of which are still cheaper than the Steam Machine. Right. Okay, so and I think in many cases they're actually more powerful than the Steam Machine, yet cheaper.
And what we don't know about this is like how much profit is coming off of consoles, right? Or like, are they selling? Have they been selling at a loss this whole time?
Right. How much of a loss is it?
Is the loss that they're eating so that they can use it a loss leader to then sell more games on their side and make it up there? Does that gap there like make up the difference between the cost of a PlayStation and a Steam machine?
And there's also something interesting about the Steam stuff. So like we've heard a lot about this idea of like the K-shaped economy, which I don't know if you guys have heard this term, but it's the idea that because of a sort of a change in, or not a change, but like an acceleration in income and wealth inequality just all over the world. It's especially true here in the U.S. That you kind of have like a bifurcated economy where you got some people who have a lot of spending money. It's that top 10 or 20% of earners or of owners in the economy. And then you got everybody else who doesn't have spending money. And that gap is widening in terms of like purchasing power and all of that. And so that potentially explains things like you'll see something like a Steam Machine come out at a really high price, right? That nobody really needs it because you can play all the Steam games on your PC or whatever. And Valve comes out and like, we're not going to subsidize it, or you get your Steam controller that's high priced for a controller or all that. And yet they still kind of sell out because there's enthusiasts who do have the spending money and they're just like, I'll just buy it, even though I don't need it, and it's technically worse and more expensive than these other things. But it's cool.
Like the Apple Vision Pro, right? Same kind of idea.
Yeah. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if the Steam Machine ends up just like the Steam controller, where even though people were like, it's not that good and it's too expensive, it's probably gonna have a hard time getting one because it's probably just gonna sell out. And that's but kind of the nature of the economy right now.
It's that, but there's also, for what the Steam Machine is trying to do, you have to take into account, right? Because it's not accurate to say it's not that good. It's, given its price point, it should be more powerful, right? That's true. But is it actually not good? Because the question of whether or not it's good is, can it play all your Steam games or play
the games you want to play?
And does it solve a problem that is not being solved for you, right? And the answer there seems to be, from at least the reviews that I've seen, is a pretty clear yes, which is that people want to be able to sit down on the couch and play their Steam games, right? And
without building a separate gaming rig to do it.
And having to do that yourself, right? And
I think because the other annoying part is like if you do set up a PC and you have that in your living room, it's a PC. Yeah. So you would still need to like boot it up and then like navigate to Steam using a keyboard and mouse or something, right? And then like boot Steam up there that way and then switch to your controller, which is like, that's tedious as fuck.
Yeah, there aren't good off-the-shelf mechanisms for you to do that. So people that are doing this stuff are like, it's hobbyist stuff. They got forums, they're making it themselves, they're coming up right. But having a thing that you can just go buy is.
I do think it's an interesting
nice.
point though, which is it's a very good point, which is that it's very easy to miss the forest for the trees when you start digging into specs, right?
Mm-hmm.
As far as like product, what is a product doing? And you talk about this actually with games, we've talked a lot about our own struggles in the past, figuring out how to market our games, talk about our games, and how easy it is to fall into like the feature listing thing, right? Because it's like those are the facts, those are the comparables, those are the
arguably,
the pieces.
If price versus performance was an issue, nobody would ever buy an Apple product.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's
or
like
a Nintendo
it's not,
product, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's one of those funny ones where it's like it's an interesting lens through which to view something, and even like the performance of the thing, whether it's a Switch not being able to run hardly anything because it's like a 2013 Android tablet. It's like those things they matter when you're thinking only about those specific things.
Yeah,
you're comparing,
they don't.
And you're basically
not
boiling
matter,
it down.
but they're not
Right,
the
yeah,
most
right.
important thing by
Correct.
even close.
Right.
Yeah. And also, I think people really kind of underestimate like the brand loyalty that Valve has with a lot of gamers.
Oh, 100%.
Just that like that they continually provide good service, good prices, huge variety of games. They have good discoverability, all that stuff. And the portability of it is good, right? So with the Steam machine being able to just like pick up
Pop
and
it
play
and
wherever
go.
you go and all that stuff, and then having that same thing apply to the Steam machine with your Steam Deck. You got kind of your whole ecosystem, right? And so I mean it's not just about how well does it run a game for the price. And so it'll probably still do pretty well. And I also kind of looked at just to kind of get a sense of like because there's also been the price increase for the Xbox, price increase for the PlayStation 5. There's been a lot of conversation about that over the past couple weeks, and I was like, I wonder if I just kind of look at like how much storage these things have and how much RAM these devices have, and kind of just back of the napkin math it out of like what has their cost increase been for these components, for these different devices, relative to how much they've increased the prices. To answer the question, are they absorbing the cost, or are they using this as an opportunity to try to make more
Just
money?
ratchet
Something we
prices.
saw in 2022 when inflation started going crazy was more than half of the increases in prices that we were seeing could be attributed to companies basically just going, oh, well, people are expecting prices to go up.
Yeah,
So we can actually jack them up by a lot. And the same thing even happened with the bird flu with the egg prices, where the price increase in eggs back that was 2023 into 24, I think. The egg price thing was not explained at all by the bird flu. Like, yes, there was bird flu, and yes, it did hit egg production, but the change in egg prices was so dramatically out of proportion to the effect on the supply chain. And it turns out that there's just a handful of companies that decide, hey, if we just all independently decide to increase our prices at the same time by a shitload, if people need eggs for all the things that they're doing.
And there's the independent part, but it's also the fact that, at least in the United States, almost everything you see in a grocery store, including eggs, is owned by
a small number of companies.
So not very many people have to come together and happen to agree on the prices for things.
Yeah. And so, one of the things that can happen in a small market like that is like, let's say you're selling a product and you have one competitor who's also selling a similar product, right? And you see they go, oh yeah, our prices are suddenly going up by 80% because we can't help it. Sorry, it's 80% higher. You're going to look at that and you're going to be like, well, I mean, we could increase our prices by 70% and still be the better option
on price.
So you do it, and then suddenly everybody loses.
There doesn't even have to be collusion. It's just how this market works, right? Where it's like as soon as it starts going up, it all just kind of drifts up. Together.
Or even like if you're the cheaper option to begin with, you could raise your prices by more than they did and still be the cheaper option. You know what I mean? And that's what's been happening all over the place. And when you have very few competitors, then that like passive collusion just kind of happens, right? So I wanted to know, like, with all these kind of price increases across the board, is that the kind of thing that we're seeing, or is it just kind of like commensurate with the the hardware.
It is hard to
cost
say, right?
increase,
Because you
so-
could tell, like, if you're looking at the hardware cost and try to like look at that element of it, if they come out below that, then you already know, like, okay, no, they're eating this cost, right? If they come out above that, it's really hard to tell because the cost isn't the cost, because its impact on like what it means to manufacture them is unknown, and like the supply chain effects of all these market problems that we have right now.
So it's always an underestimate.
It's going to be an
whatever
underestimate.
napkin math you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's look at the Xbox Series X digital.
Mhm.
I'm just going to call it the Xbox because I'm tired of saying the entire fucking name of this thing.
Okay, if that's true. Like that makes sense to me. But which one is that in this? Is that like the high end?
It's the one without a disk drive. It
It's like it doesn't have a disk drive. It's like it's like a
budget one?
mid tier.
Okay,
It's not
mid tier.
I don't think it's the
Mid tier current, mid tier latest generation.
current latest generation.
Got it, I'm on board. Right.
So it's currently $749. It was $449. So it's seen a $300 price increase since 2020. And this is just in like in the price listed, not I'm not adjusting for inflation here.
Right. And this is
the actual price.
And this is after the announcement I think they made like yesterday, right? That they're checking the price. Is that what this is? Okay.
Yeah. So this is
And
the
also I
newest
believe in that
price.
announcement they said there would be a second hike later this year or something. So
probably
this isn't even the end.
Oh
of it.
boy. Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And there's also another kind of funny thing about Grand Theft Auto, which actually we'll talk about Grand Theft Auto a little bit, but all right. So it's gone up by $300. If we want to look at sort of like price estimates for storage and RAM based on the type of RAM and storage that this device uses and how much it has, then we would estimate that just those components have gone up by about $270
Just by themselves.
since the launch of this console. So their price has gone up by $300, and just those components have gone up by $265.
Right.
It's likely that other components have also gone up in price.
And also
GPUs,
this isn't accounting
CPUs,
for
whatever.
tariffs, right? Because tariffs increase the cost of all imported stuff.
It's not accounting. It's literally only looking at the price of
Yeah.
RAM and storage change.
Yeah.
So
it's probably below. They're probably eating more of all of it.
Probably they did not raise their prices enough to account for the change in inputs.
Yeah.
But it's kind of close. So that right now that puts them at a $35 difference. Where like technically they're up 35, but because other things may have also gone up, they might actually be like on the money, or they might be having like eating a little bit of the cost.
I would bet they're eating. They're
There's
using the cost
a substantial amount, I would imagine.
and they're eating enough of it that's why we're gonna have these next round of price hikes. I don't know when, but we're gonna have another round of price hikes where they're trying to be eating less of it. But because also their goal is to sell games, like that's where all the money comes from. The device can't be too expensive. It can't be. They have to take a loss on it to some extent. And so my bet is that all the console companies are going to be like, just do it. They're like, we're going to see huge price hikes repeatedly because the cost of everything is going up so fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
But every time they do that, it's going to be like, how do we just eat as little as we can get away with, but still keep the price as low as we can? Is like going to be what the goal is, right?
And like Adam was saying earlier, we're looking at like average prices of these things. They have probably like specific implementation of these that requires them to get, it's got to be manufactured in a certain way or whatever, which could increase the price for them, but also they're buying a lot of it, which could decrease the price for them.
Yeah,
so we don't know what the exact price is. So this is just very kind of like back of the napkin. Like, is it maybe reasonable? Like, are these price changes that they have like maybe reasonable, or are they gouging? Right.
Yes. Yeah.
It looks like it might actually be kind of reasonable given everything else.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least it could be reasonable.
It could be.
It could be reasonable.
Yeah. So like, have your pitchfork ready, but like, maybe don't point it directly yet.
Sheathe your
sheathe your pitchfork.
And again, for reference, the Xbox One 2013, adjusted for inflation, $714 in today's dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So, still actually kind of close. And I think one of the things that people are reeling from too is that like we've been getting accustomed to the prices of consoles go down or stay about the same for better performance, because that's just how computing has been for.
It's also been the same way that,
ever.
frankly, games prices have worked up until very, very recently, right? Which is like games on Steam or even AAA games have only in the last like year, like kind of starting with the Mario Kart World thing, have really only in the past year started punching into like $70 or $80 price ranges, right?
Games were
Even
$60 when I was in middle school.
Exactly, which would be like $120 now, you know? So it's like, yeah, they've been consistently kind of sticky at this point. And same thing with indie games. Like classically, indie games are like $15 for some reason, right? On Steam.
Yeah, 15 to $30.
15 to $30. And the reality is like the purchasing power of that. And like for us, you know, on our end, like we are running a studio. So our costs have also, along with everybody else's, we actually pay our employees and we keep inflation in mind. So we don't fuck around in terms of like removing people's purchasing power year by year, right? In terms of how we pay. So our costs have gone up dramatically in the last 10 years.
Our costs go up with inflation plus some extra, right?
Yeah.
Because also, like, for example, every year our health insurance costs go up by about 10%.
Yeah.
On a good
compounding. Yeah. Fucking compounding, right? So like there's just the cost of
being alive,
employment and being alive and all this stuff, it just won't stop going. Won't stop going up. So yeah, so Xbox probably pretty reasonable. PlayStation is an interesting one. So PS5 currently PS5 Digital Edition, $600 right now. Launched at $399, so it's gone up. Let's see. So yeah, PS5 Digital is $599, and it launched at $399, so it's gone up by
$200.
$200, yeah. Give me one sec here. I think I flubbed up some math. Okay, PS5.
And this is also like current generation mid-tier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Digital. So it's like, yeah, if you were just like deciding between PS5 and Xbox, the two digital editions are probably like somewhat comparable. So the price increase for the PS5 digital is $200, and the estimated change in price for their components, so they have the same RAM as the Xbox and slightly less storage. So their price has probably gone up by $237, but their price has only increased by $200. And again, this is only looking at RAM and CPU.
Right, just a few pieces.
Sorry, RAM and storage.
Yeah, not tariffs, not the rest of parts.
Right. So just with that, they technically are not increasing their prices enough to account for their increases in just those parts. They're losing $40.
And again, it's possible that for their manufacturing, their costs.
Yeah, you get a wholesale price.
So,
yeah.
But again, the question of like, is what we're seeing like believably reasonable relative to the question of like, are they just catching up to inflation? Are they staying below it? Whatever. And it looks like that's pretty unambiguously, like they're coming in well below what you would expect.
They're probably eating the cost. And for comparison, so it's $599. The PlayStation 4 in 2013, if you adjust for inflation, $571. So inflation wise, they're pretty close in price. And again, like there are higher models of PlayStation 5 that maybe they aren't eating the cost on those. Maybe they increased it by more. I'm not quite sure. I'm just looking at like just these couple. And this is also kind of one of the things that was kind of tricky about trying to figure out these numbers is just the number of different models of these devices, and the way that they name them.
It's very confusing.
I feel like Apple did this to us at like where they first started being like, okay, we have like 3 or 4 versions of the same iPhone, but the way that we name them has nothing to do with what they do, right? Is the Max the biggest? Maybe.
I think Starbucks
is the Pro the fastest? I don't know.
Starbucks definitely started this.
Starbucks did it where we're like, these are actually qualitatively different in something obvious, which is how big they are, and that's kind of what you're paying for, right? But we don't want that to feel like that's what's happening, so we'll just come up with names that are non-comparable between them, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what everybody else is doing. It's very, very confusing.
Yeah. So like these price increases fucking suck.
And across the board, man.
And I think, and again, like I think a lot of it comes down to just the fact that we've had this well-established pattern for like 3 decades that in gaming, like gaming has become more and more accessible to people over the years because just the cost of computing has gone down, the cost of hardware, the cost of games has been relatively flat in terms of actual, like in terms of current dollars, but then even like adjust for inflation, it's gone down, right? And all of a sudden, it's just whipsawing in the other direction, which is, but again, like that doesn't necessarily contradict, and that doesn't contradict what we're probably about to see, where the Steam machine's probably going to sell out.
100%.
You're still going to have a wait list, I assume, when the Steam Frame, the VR thing. Like we're not believers in VR. We've always been really skeptical of it as a widespread sort of.
It's a very small market. It's always going to be a niche market, I think.
Yeah, we're not skeptical of the technology, but as a market where you can sell games and make a living and that kind of stuff, very challenging. It's just too niche and expensive of a market currently.
Yeah, and it's expensive in ways that are hard to measure as well. Kind of in the same way we're talking about, like, the Steam machine costs more in dollars, but also it gives you access to things that are not quantified in that. Right. And so the same thing with VR, where like the VR devices themselves tend to be on the upper end of price, but also you need space. You need
a dedicated space, basically. Right.
Yeah. And you also need a lifestyle that allows you to essentially, blind and deafen yourself to everybody and everything around you for extended periods of time.
And consume a space.
And not have that be a problem.
Well, that's now not even because we're talking about these price impacts, right? I think I just saw that the median home price in the United States is now $400K.
Or it's just past 400,000.
So so who has that dedicated space?
Yeah, I think it dovetails nicely, I think, into this most recent announcement now of Grand Theft Auto's price, frankly, from yesterday.
Yeah.
So people there's kind of mixed reactions, I think, online, but whenever you say that the price of a thing someone wants is going to be higher than they want it to be, there's always going to be some like negative reaction, right? But the Grand Theft Auto prices are I think an interesting. If we look at where they're at and look at the inflation value of that versus like the previous Grand Theft Auto 5, and I think we can talk about just like from our own experience of running a studio, like what is the reality of those price increases been for us versus like how the market's been. You know what I mean? So like what did Grand Theft Auto cost? Grand Theft Auto 5.
So GTA 5 came out in 2013. It was 13 years ago. It was like right there alongside the Xbox One and the PS4, right? It was $60 base, and then it had a special edition at $80.
Okay.
So it was pretty in line with other AAA games at the time. Adjusted for inflation, that means the base was $86 in today's dollars. And the special edition was $114 in today's dollars. And again, this is kind of tricky because we always say, like, CPI doesn't capture everything, and so
it's an underestimate always.
So you could pretty easily make the case that inflation is actually higher than what the CPI says. In which case, the GTA 5 may actually be $100 in today's dollars.
Well,
or
in particular,
more,
because what is it that impacts the cost of making it? Because CPI it's basically how much does stuff cost, right? It's what it is. It's just averaged out of a bunch of things, right? So it's kind of circular in terms of like, what does it mean?
Yeah.
But for any given kind of good, the question is, where does the cost come from? And is that getting more expensive over time or cheaper over time and so on, right?
Yeah.
The cost of making games is basically in people.
People costs,
right?
Yep.
And people costs, because as Seth noted, CPI doesn't take into account most of people costs, because people costs are healthcare, housing, utilities, right? Those collectively make up 40 to 80% of people's budgets, right?
Yeah.
So, and those we all know have been going up
like a fucking crazy,
extremely fast and much faster than broader CPI has been going up. And so the cost of making games has gone up relative to that stuff.
Yeah, regardless of, and I would put that regardless of scale, regardless of saying like we're making now a bigger game, like we're making Grand Theft Auto 6, which is like a whole city simulated. Regardless of that, if you just made Grand Theft Auto 5 again, if you just made it again, in today's dollars, it would cost a
twice
fuckload
as
more.
much. At least twice as much.
At least twice as much.
Yeah. And
so games are costing far more to make these days.
The same game.
The same
game. None of this like we're pushing too far on graphics. AAA people are out of touch with like what people want. No. Even if you just make the same shit you made 20 years ago.
Is an expensive fucking game, right?
Yeah, it's like the most expensive thing on the planet.
It's probably the most expensive thing ever made, and except if you discount the AI stuff that's going on, right?
Just
it's
the one thing.
Is it one thing?
I haven't. I'm curious. Is it a moon landing? What are we talking about?
What's the cost?
I haven't done the math on that, but I'm curious now.
Also,
maybe next time we'll be like, how many? What?
Yeah, what's the cost? How many units do they have to sell at these prices to break even on that?
Well, so then that gets into what the announcement was. So Grand Theft Auto 6 announced for, what was it yesterday? The standard edition?
$80.
$80.
Yeah.
$80 standard.
Right.
Which I was like, to me, I heard that and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I was surprised.
Well,
I thought it was going to be higher.
Yeah. Well, again, even if you're just looking at the very bad metric of CPI, which is not even measuring the thing that goes into making these things, they are actually selling it for less than Grand Theft Auto 5, right? Would be today.
Yeah. $6 less in
real power, like real money
dollars.
power, right?
And GTA 6 is one of those, like, everybody knows how insane the scale of this game is, how insane the cost behind it are. Nobody knows if it's going to be good, but we all know how big it is, right?
We all know it was expensive to make.
And so to me, it was one of those like just very easy things where I was like, yeah, you'd have to have it be at least $80, and also that doesn't sound insane given what it is, right? If anything, it sounds like an underpricing.
Yeah. And they do have some kind of a special edition that's $100. I haven't looked into this aspect of it, but there's been a bit of a backlash that apparently there's some kind of like content locked behind that special edition that many people would consider to be actually like should be part of the base game. Again, like I haven't looked into that aspect of it, so it's possible that it's like one of the things that happened that like Blizzard started doing with their World of Warcraft expansions in I think it was 2 expansions ago, was they started selling early access to the expansion.
Yeah.
So what they would do is they'd say, okay, if you pay $20 more, then you can start playing the new expansion like 5 days or 3 or 4
there are
days
a few
before
Xbox games, or at least
they've done a bunch of that.
Yeah, that did that recently too.
And so the thing is, in a multiplayer game, especially one that is a seasonal game that has time locked or time limited content, if you're a regular player of that game and you play with your friends, then that early access price just is the price, because now you're saying, friends. Well, do I get to play with my friends, or do I just have to stop playing the game?
Because if you're 5 days behind in a game like that, you're out of sync. You're not actually able to sync up with.
Yeah, your friends are leveling up without you, and then there's like a lagging effect where now they're off ahead doing stuff that your character literally can't do,
and they're not going to come back to help you through the other stuff because they're already ahead.
Yeah, they'll like you will catch up with them eventually, but you're basically now just playing completely by yourself for the next week and a half. Yeah. Which fucking sucks. And the whole reason you play a game like that is to play with other.
It's people, the same kind of pain point logic that's used in mobile gaming, right? Of like, okay, if we hurt you in this way and give you a fee you can use to overcome the pain, then we are strongly encouraging you to do that, right? And kind of neglecting the fact that you're intentionally making the game feel bad in order to get people to spend money, right? And that's basically what that design is, which is different from the regular single player game, right? Where it's just like, you get it early, you're playing it by yourself, doesn't really matter that much, right? But whatever.
Doesn't change anything about the game for you, but actually, like, an early access thing for a multiplayer game. Literally, it's holding the game experience hostage, in exchange for
the intended experience,
for $20 extra.
But I think it's interesting, like with regards to like modern games and AAA games. I mean, they just kind of open that question, as always, that can of worms from players being like, well, shouldn't this be included in quote unquote the base game, right? Which is kind of what the argument always is whenever you see one of these collector's editions come out, which is they're like, hey, we made some extra content. If you want it, you pay some extra money. It's sort of a thing like that. I like what's always funny to me about depending on the game, what's funny to me about the argument is that I think if you look at the context of like the whole game and how much of that bonus content, like what % of the whole game basically is that bonus content.
Yeah.
I would argue that something like Grand Theft Auto 6, I looked at the list of stuff that they're adding. It's like you get some outfits, you get like some cars,
nothing proportionally.
and there's a few like I think it's like there might be a few additional quests or something like that. There's little like beats kind of throughout the whole game. They did a really good job, frankly, with like a add-on where it's not just like, hey, you get like a gold shotgun at the beginning of the game. It's like it's gone all the way through the line. It looks like
It's just like a little sprinkling of things, kind of.
Just sprinkling, which is cool. And I think if you argue like percentage wise, but like how much of the experience then is like left on the table by not purchasing that. Given the scope of that fucking thing, I don't think it's probably infinitesimal.
Well, and I don't know how that affects the online aspect of it. Like if you don't have the special edition and your friend does, maybe can you not do stuff together? I don't know.
Well, and even if you can, depending on how it's because I know Fortnite is a big way that it makes money is by making you feel poor if your friends have skins and you don't, so that you try to scrounge up money to buy skins, right? So my guess is if it has an impact on multiplayer, it's more of that where you can.
It's just some FOMO, basically.
Yeah, as people can like advertise that they had that extra $20 to spend, right? And it makes you want to advertise that you can, right?
Yeah. Well, and at the end of the day, like so many of these price things just come down to what do you expect?
Yes.
Like I saw this. So the Steam Summer Sale just started this week, and I was going through my wish list to be like, oh, is there anything good in here? And I saw this game that I was like, oh yeah, this is I wish listed this a couple of years ago. It was in early access. Looks super cool. It's overwhelmingly positive. It was like 97% positive. I actually can't remember the name of it, but
Sure.
Oh no, it's like Dyson Sphere Simulator or something like that.
Okay,
It's
yeah,
like,
I vaguely remember that.
it's crazy looking. And I saw one of the reviews popped up as a negative review from somebody with 2,000 hours in the
Classic.
game.
Yep.
And basically their review was like, I wouldn't recommend getting this because it's still at early access and it doesn't look like they're going to finish the game. Because the cadence of updates is just not there. It's like once every 6 months there's like a small update.
That'd be a good review for, say, Kerbal Space Program 2, which has not been updated for 3 years at this point and has not seen an announcement for 3 years. And as far as you can tell,
where it feels unfinished out of the gate and also is unfinished.
And is going to right. Yeah, because importantly is also a bad experience, at least as far as everybody's playing.
Yeah, so it's like if you're dropping $20 on a thing and then you get 2,000 hours of entertainment out of it, and then you say
free. It was free.
Yeah, and then you say people shouldn't get this thing because it's just not done. It's like, man, there are so many games. Like I've put 900 something hours into Baldur's Gate 3, right? Not even half of what this dude put into this unfinished game. And so, but it's all about framing, right? Where it's like in this person's mind, an early access game comes with certain expectations about what you're supposed to get for your money. And even though they got 2,000 hours of gameplay out of this game, that's not like, again, it's back to it.
Right? Well, I think it's
they said it was great.
I think again the problem is they're just separate. They're like separate tracks of thinking, right? Which is like, it's true that as a customer, if someone says like, "Hey, this is early access," which means we're going to finish it. That's what early access means. We're giving you early access because to a thing we're going to finish,
and we're going to be updating it and working.
If you don't finish it, that's rude.
It's bullshit. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. And then
much in the same way that like the Steam machine being $1,049, we talked about how like if you just look at the price and then the metrics of like the power of the components or whatever, you're like, this isn't.
It's not a good deal from a
it's not a good deal, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But there's other aspects of it that come into play, which again comes down to like intangible things or expectations
and your alternatives, right? Because the alternative to buying the Steam machine is to build one yourself, right? And I actually didn't look. There was somebody, I can't remember who. There's some site, I don't know if it was Aftermath or what, but somebody went through and they were like, I tried to just build a Steam machine, like equivalent, one-to-one matching, to see how much it costs. And unfortunately, I didn't. Maybe it was a record I didn't have access to. I can't remember. So I actually didn't get to see what the
number
price was, But I would bet anything if you just like sat down, went through the Steam machine parts, right? And again, knowing that like when you're buying that stuff, like Steam's getting it wholesale, right? And then they're taking on the cost of labor and stuff to assemble these things and deal with all this other stuff, right? And then you're buying the parts as a consumer, so not wholesale. and then you're doing all the labor and stuff. So like there's a way in which that kind of breaks even in a sense, right? So you can kind of really just think about it as the price. And I would bet anything that with today's prices of things, if you were to try to like build that thing,
yeah, it's gonna be on par with or exceed probably. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's gonna be similar at best, and maybe a little cheaper.
I mean, I've seen a lot of
right?
people claiming that they've put together just as an experiment, they've put together like parts lists and stuff like that, and have come out quite a bit cheaper by like a couple $100. But again, I haven't done it myself.
I would say that's
so.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's hard to, because the other thing too is like part of the reason that people don't like, one of the frustrations people have about not having a Steam Machine equivalent, right, is that the form factor, like trying to get a small, quiet PC,
it's actually it's the design
is
of the box.
impossible, right?
It's kind of like a laptop, right? Like getting all these parts like squeezed in there,
and that's a big cost too, right? And so having all
that's what I mean when people are talking about it's very easy when you're looking at just the details of something to be like, oh yeah, apples and apples, but it's like it's not at all the same thing at the end of the day in terms of the product.
It's the same idea as when you go to a restaurant and you pay $20 and you're like, I could have made this at home for $5. It's like, you could have, but that's not.
But nobody else made it for you.
Did you?
You know?
Yeah, you're still going to the restaurant buying it. Why are you doing that?
Because when you go to a restaurant, you're not buying ingredients. You're buying the labor and the ingredients, right? But the labor
and the convenience of just sitting there while somebody else does everything for you. You know what I mean? So to kind of like wrap it all up and kind of put a bow on the thing, back to the kind of like, is the Steam Machine unreasonably priced? I would say probably still yes. However, people are still gonna buy it.
Well, I think it also depends on what you mean, because I think it's unreasonably priced, but because I think the Steam Machine wouldn't have been a budget device, right? As in, it always would have been above like cost of parts kind of a thing, right? Because it's because
Valve doesn't need to sell it.
Yeah, and Steam hardware is kind of like Steam hardware.
It's a luxury good. It's a luxury
like
good.
Apple. Steam and
the Apple of consoles.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So I would have already expected it to be like, and then again, they're also not going to subsidize it. So you take those two things together. It was always going to be, megabyte per megabyte, right? Hertz per hertz. It was going to be more expensive than.
I think back when, because we made a prediction about the cost of it, which I think we said basically if they're trying to actually compete meaningfully with consoles in terms of saying, we're going to sell at somewhat of a loss because we know we can make up for it later. Mm-hmm. Then our theory was that they could sell it at like $500 or $600. Yeah. But if they were going to do it where they didn't have to eat the cost, then it would probably be
like 700 or whatever, but
600 or 700. Yeah.
And that was before we had that.
That was before.
Oh yeah. I mean, Valve is an insanely profitable company. Like they could have just sold the thing at a crazy loss.
Yeah.
And then.
Oh yeah.
And so I think so. Maybe the question here is: would any of us buy it? Right.
I want one, but no.
Yes.
I want it, but I would not buy it right now.
To me, this is too expensive for me to feel I could justify it. Right.
Yes.
Which is different than the question of, is it reasonably priced? Right.
Correct.
Because reasonably is doing a lot of heavy lifting there, right? Because you decide what's reasonable, right? And for me, like I feel like from like how the market we live in, what Steam is trying to do, what the hardware, like all that kind of stuff, I feel like it's a fair argument to say it's a little overpriced, but I don't think it's actually true.
Let me put it this way.
Really overpriced.
I think given how the whole thing feels right now, my whole thing, like the whole economic situation, like we've been in this business for, I guess it's coming up on like 14 years now. And we've been doing fine, but at the same time, like I'm not in a space where I'm like, what I should do is spend $1,000 on a thing that like I definitely don't need. Just straight up, like I just don't need it. Do I really want it? Yes. Maybe if Heavy Dudes goes really well, then I'll get one. You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah, but I think that's importantly true.
Gift to myself.
Yeah, for like everything right now, that's true, right? Because like
exactly
everything in our lives is so expensive that there's a ton of stuff now that I'm like, I understand why it's expensive. I'm not mad about that part. I mean, I'm mad about the causes.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But I'm not mad about what the person who's trying to sell me the thing is selling it at. I get it.
Correct.
But I'm not going to buy it though. Like it's a thing I may have bought when it was cheaper.
Yes.
But because there's a difference between like, is the cost reasonable and are you willing to pay it, right?
Yes.
And because of all the inflationary and AI-induced hardware increases in costs and the idiocy-induced increases from tariffs and all this stuff, right? So we have all these things that are compounding to make the stuff just, again, like Valve's, all the console makers,
I think
responses to it to me make sense, but they also
they're
make
fine.
it so I'm not going to buy those things, right? Those are just both true at the same time, right?
Yep.
But people will still will. Right?
People still will.
Yeah. And like, and
I won't, but other people will.
Yeah. For me, it's like if somebody just like gave me a Steam machine, I'd be like, fuck yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
this is great.
Yep.
And I would probably play with it a bit, but I like my PC gaming, and I'm not really that much of a controller or couch gamer. And so for me, it would be a fun kind of novelty to like play some of the games that I like on it, maybe every now and then. But again, kind of like we're talking about, it's not a gateway into Steam. You don't need a Steam machine. It's just a different way to play the games that you already have and already have been playing.
Yeah, and if you are a Steam gamer, chances are you're kind of you're not doing couch co-op, right? You couldn't have been, because it's too hard to play games via Steam on a couch with buds sitting on the same couch, right? And that's been true. So that means that your game library and also the games that are predominantly available on Steam largely don't really give you that experience, right? And so to me, that's like a lot of it. But there are tons of games on there that they just can't be front and center, right? So I think for me, it would be like I would have to start shifting my library to have stuff to play. Because right now, when I play on the couch, I play Switch games, right? Because those are all, or not all, but those are heavily focused on, hey, we're 2 to 4 people sitting on the couch together playing games. So that's what the library that I already have bought is, right? On Switch. And so so that it would be. For me, it's a circular problem where until I have games that are worth playing co-op on Steam, there's no point in having a device I can play on the couch.
I mean, I've got a few that like I would enjoy playing on the couch, like with a controller. It's just that, like, again, I don't.
And I have with the Steam Deck, and the Steam Deck is a low power device, and so it sucks a little bit, right? But
I do think it's funny that like the experience of Valve, because they tried to do this same thing basically back in like 2012. It was like around the same time they tried to do the Steam Machine. V1, right?
Did they call it the Steam Machine? Was that also?
Yeah, I got confused when I was looking up stuff for all this. Like, Steam Machine, and there's a Wikipedia page called Steam Machines, with an S, and it's all about all the different like iterations of hardware that they tried to do in the early 2010s. And
I have one of them in the basement, I think.
Yeah, I think you have one. Right? Yeah.
But it was Steam Link. Did the Steam Link where you would like stream from your PC?
Yeah, the timing of it was just funny to me because I was like, I feel like they finally. I mean, when they announced, everyone was so excited, and I was like, I think they announced right before all the costs went fucking crazy.
Well, we had all the tariff stuff and inflation and stuff, but
it was happening. Yeah,
it was before the hardware costs.
Yes, and so I don't know. There's something kind of, I don't know, tragic about it, because like I'm sure Steam was like, oh, this is gonna be our moment. Like they've been wanting to make a fucking good like home console thingy, right?
I think they did it
literally a decade.
Yeah, I think it's the same with the Steam Deck. I think the Steam Deck was like that was Valve's entry to that space, and I think whatever the Steam Deck 2 turns out to be, I think is going to be the one where I'm like, that's they did it. Like Steam Deck 1, really good though. Right?
But I was like, man, it sucks if you're like you've been playing on this. This is like a 20-year
journey. Got
journey.
The PC console.
Oh, we got it. We got like the whole thing set up. And it's like,
honestly though, at the end of the day, Valve is still in a better position to capitalize on the current state of affairs of the world than the rest of the
because people will buy it.
Companies.
They don't have to subsidize it. They don't have to sell hardware to sell games. Yeah, they're in a really good position to, like, they won't. Valve will have no trouble at all.
Yeah,
because
nobody expects Valve to be producing exclusives like they do Xbox.
Yep.
Or PlayStation. Yep. They don't have to invest. They could not make another game ever, and it would be like cool.
Yep.
Not like Xbox Studios or Sony.
And importantly, like, because GTA 6 is coming out in November, and there's already been some articles coming out about how the console makers, so Xbox and PlayStation, they're worried that they're not going to be able to actually manufacture enough devices to keep them in stock to meet the demand for GTA 6 purchasers. Right?
It's going to be a big loss of income for them, actually.
Yeah. So what are they going to do? Probably raise prices again. Right? So, because if you're selling out nonstop, then like
signals that you could raise
economics
the price.
Says supply and demand, raise the price. Because you're actually undercutting.
Yeah, so we're still to say this is going to get a lot worse until.
Yeah.
And it might be the case in a year that you're like, oh, the Steam Machine is actually on par with an Xbox or a PlayStation now.
Yeah, if it's not already $500 more
It could
expensive.
be. Yeah. Steam Machine might just be ahead of the curve. We'll see.
Well, the thing is unless and until the AI bubble pops, this will just keep getting worse really fast. So if it doesn't pop, then we're just buckled in, and this is just what it's like now to try to play video games in general. Is just all of our hardware is going to just keep going up.
It's just gonna be more expensive.
Yeah.
So hope not, but yeah, buckle up for another year or two of nonsense.
Yeah, my plan is to avoid buying any hardware for like 2 years, because I'm thinking that about that window is when everything collapses and prices start to go back to where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, I managed to get a new laptop like just in time.
Yeah, you timed that really well.
Just before all this, I was like, it's now or never. If I need a new laptop, now's the time. So I'm glad I squeezed that in. So it's like if my desktop rig collapses somehow, I've still got a backup.
It is. Yeah, it's also funny too. I have because historically this stuff has all felt. It's like it's not cheap. It's not literally cheap, but like for what it is, right? It's felt.
Well, in the context of like running a whole studio.
For running a studio, like the rigs that we have to do stuff are like like they feel very cost effective. But it's because like in my basement, I've got like RAM sticks laying around. I got 512 to 2 terabyte SSDs.
It was
just
cheap.
sitting down there. But it's all, and it's also because like I've upgraded to NVMe storage in my rig, right? And so I was like, I don't need these in there also. So they're just like, it's like having gold in the basement.
Yeah, now you go out, it's like got gold bars that are just appreciating in value every year. Well, don't lose them. You don't want to be like that person who's digging through the landfill trying to find their Bitcoin wallet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So keep track of those RAM sticks.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for this week. We'd like to thank our producers, Fat Bard and Sampa Acosta, for putting the podcast together. And thanks to our community moderators who keep our Discord running. To get more involved in the Butterscotch community, just go to podcast.bscotch.net, where we have links to the Discord, a way for you to donate to support the podcast, and links to the archives. And if you haven't yet, head on over to Steam, pick up the demo of How Many Dudes, so you can get familiar with the game before it launches on July 30th. And we'll be launching on Steam, Google Play, and the App Store. And you can also pre-register on Google Play and pre-purchase on the App Store as well. So thank you all for listening, and we will see you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.